Hey everyone, I've been a Linux user since the mid-90s, and if you're a Linux user like me, every 10 years or so, you're going to get a new laptop whether you need it or not. Sadly, I needed it, and this is an HP laptop that I picked up at BJ's. It was a special for Black Friday. It's an Intel Core i7, about $500 and way overpowered for anything that I need, but it's a new laptop, so there are going to be some perils in installing Linux. So let's jump into the unboxing and we'll get started on a complete Kubuntu installation. Plug it in, we'll open it up, remove this piece of protective fabric. I've got Kubuntu 2110. This computer will never boot into Windows 11. I'm going to go in the diagnostics first, hitting the F2 just to check out the computer, make sure everything works okay. Selecting English here, checking out my system information. I just want to go through the stuff quick before I go through all the trouble of installing Linux. Make sure there's no problems with the system. Everything's detected correctly. My storage, I'm just going down the menus right quick. There's the battery. And there's my fan, outstanding, it's spinning. And there's a symptom test, but that's only if you have a problem. But there is a system test, and there's an extensive system test. It says it takes 2 hours to run, and I'll tell you that it actually took just under half an hour to run, which wasn't too bad, but it was definitely a good idea to go through all that. If it failed, I was going to return the laptop, but it didn't fail, so I kept it. And furthermore, there were some components tests that I did individually. I'm not going to go through all this on camera. It was more of a curiosity to me at that point, so I exit out. And now I'm going to be pressing F10 on the reboot to make my way into the BIOS. And we're going to get started on BIOS configuration. To prevent any unnecessary issues, I did disable TPM, but I didn't show it, so I put a big red arrow here. I did this just before I logged out. No changes here in configuration. I make my way over to boot. In boot, the first thing I did was make my way down to the boot order because I have to make sure that the USB flash drive comes before anything else, so we could boot off the flash drive, obviously. Also, as we look up here in the options up above, I want to make sure that obviously USB boot is enabled and secure boot is disabled, which I don't show here. Now I'll make my way to save changes and exit. I speed up a lot of stuff to keep this video shorter, so it magically boots real quick. We're going to go to try Kubuntu, and we do have problems the way this live USB is built, so we're going to have to do things immediately and quickly. We're going to open up console. We're going to type sudo space -s, no password is required, and then lsmod pipe grep rtw. If you see a module that says rtw 88_88 whatever, your computer's probably going to crash in the next 5 minutes. First order of business, we're going to pull this module out with modprobe space -r, and now we're going to type in that module rtw 88_8821ce, and we can see that it has disappeared. The ls mod shows all the dependencies to be gone. And we could fix the parameter that breaks all this, but we can't fix it during the live USB installation. All this really means is we're going to do the installation without network connectivity as we see here, and we'll fix the problem on the first boot into the new operating system. So let's install. And I'm just selecting English, and I'm not really skipping through here. There's just really nothing to this. There's my keyboard, and I'm selecting normal installation. Obviously, you can't download updates while installing. I am going to select install third-party software that's on the USB. We'll notice over here there's not a requirement to use secure boot if you're installing third-party software because I disabled it in the BIOS, and that's why I disabled it. On a new laptop, you'd be presented with several partitions. Obviously, on this laptop, I've already done it a couple times to figure out the most effective way to install Linux and work around the issues. I'm deleting all the partitions that were on there and using the entire disk. You may want to use a manual method and save the Windows backup partition or whatnot. Whatever your choice happens to be, it's your prerogative. Presented with a final warning message, I continue what time zone I'm in, fill out my name and password, and make my laptop's name a bit shorter, and I hit continue, and that's the extent of the entire installation. Simply waiting for the files to copy. It's completed, and now I just hit the restart button, pull my USB stick from the laptop and hit enter. We'll have it boot up for the first time. It's going to come into a login screen, so now I'm going to log into the computer. And immediately we got to do the same process again because the issue is still there. So we're going to open up console. We're going to go type sudo -s. This time we have to type in our password. lsmod pipe grep rtw. and then we're going to modprobe-r, that RTW88 underscore 8821 CE, and we watch it disappear again from our wireless. Now we're going to go cd space / etc / modprobe.d. Now we're going to type nano space RTW88 underscore PCI .conf. In this text editor, we'll add the parameter options RTW88 underscore PCI disable underscore ASPM equals 1, just like that. Hit Control O and enter to save, Control X to exit. Now we'll just quickly cat the file. So cat RTW88 underscore PCI.conf, hit enter. We see everything here looks good. We double check it. And if it's good, we simply type reboot and hit enter. Log back in. And now it's safe to configure up our wireless network. In the moment that this is connected, it immediately starts checking for updated packages in the background. We'll exit this and we'll have a look here in the package manager right after I go in and enable the sound. There we go. Looking at the package manager, we could see as I open it, it's almost completed fetching the updates. Notification also appears on the bottom bar that informs us that updates are available. In the moment that it had completed with the updates, it would have appeared there had I not opened the package manager. We could have simply clicked on that, but I'm just going to hit it here, type in my password. I have to inform a caveat here. On this live USB, there still is a kernel and firmware that has bugs in it that will cause this laptop to hang up eventually. And it is possible that during these updates, it could lock up. If it does, you're going to have to reboot and then continue doing this update, especially till you get through the firmware and the kernel updates for this. And then after that, there were no further issues. I realize it's ironic this could have been done during the install if you had access to the wireless driver, but that would have caused it to crash too. Also, removing the offending module during install and then using a USB, wireless, or Ethernet device would have made the install probably a lot easier. With the kernel or firmware updated, I rebooted for good measure. Logging in again, we're going to get underway and install some various packages in support of the GPU. Making sure you're sudo first, we're going to do apt install intel-gpu-tools. Then apt install inxi. We'll type in inxi-G and see that we correctly identify both our video card as well as our camera. Then we'll do apt install gl mark II. We'll then run gl mark II 800 by 600. As this is running, it'll be benchmarking different tests that it'll be running in the window. As we see over on the right, the left will be the results. First one shows an expected 3200 frames a second. And while this is doing so, I'm going to open up another window. And this is running Intel_GPU_top, which is a top for the GPU, showing that 100% of the utilization for this program is running through the GPU. It's not running through the processor, which is what we want. I'm going to speed up this benchmark now to get us through to the end, and then we'll look at the final result. The GL Mark II scored 2758, shows that everything is working properly for this card. We see our GPU utilization is back to 0. Wrap up the GPU testing. Install a system-wide benchmark called hardinfo using apt install hardinfo. We search for it in the search bar, and we can run it. System profile and benchmark. And this is only if you're interested in this sort of thing, collecting information, seeing how fast everything runs. You could just do generate, and then I could just pick a place to generate this HTML file, which is just going to open up in the web browser. That's what I'm going to do. Grab all the information at once. It's just running the benchmark for everything, and then open it up in the browser. We're done. This is an extremely comprehensive report, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing and bore everybody. I do recommend people make a copy of this report, so if you have to post something to a forum and you need to provide information about your computer, this is going to provide just about everything that people are going to need to entertain a problem. It also has benchmark tests as compared against other computers at the bottom of the report, so if you want to know how it fares against other computers, it does have that information too. While we're in Firefox, which is the default browser, its first page points to a privacy notice, and they talk about how privacy is fundamental to a healthy internet, which is kind of funny. Let's look at the default privacy settings that Firefox provides for us and see what we could do to fix some of them. Privacy and security and settings. Enhanced tracking protection. Let's have a look. Firefox would like to include occasional sponsored suggestions as a default setting in your address bar, for their benefit. Yeah, I did not opt into that. That doesn't sound very private to me. I think we're going to unclick that. Let's see what else they did. Allow Firefox to take this, allow Firefox to take that. It doesn't look like opt-in. It looks more like opt-out. Yeah, I don't think they take privacy very seriously. Kind of shameful. So good. Make sure you disable that stuff. While we're here, let's go over to DuckDuckGo. This would be a good idea. And get their DuckDuckGo tool for Firefox and install it. Because their tool will show you how private your stuff really is. So I like to install that on my browser, even in private windows, and see what's really going on, what kind of trackers you got. I'm not trying to shill for them. I'm just saying that this is what I use. But yeah, I also make DuckDuckGo my default search. I don't use Google because I don't like them tracking me. So you can see now, if I type test search in, DuckDuckGo is doing the search, not Google. No thank you. But yeah, that's my quick setup there for things that you absolutely must do to Firefox as you install Linux on the computer. I'm showing KRFB being installed through the actual package manager program instead of apt, just to demonstrate a package being installed from the GUI instead of the command line. This is a VNC server. That's pretty much it. There's nothing to see. It's installed. And the install fully integrated, of course, menu, icon, searchable, as you see here. I click on it and open it. I was going to use it for part of this video, but VNC really doesn't do justice. There are too many artifacts. The compositing obviously doesn't really work. So I'm just going to install my recording software via the VNC and then jump to screen record on the actual computer. I did notice this icon down here to install this policy kit. So I just installed this as well. Give my password. So I've got my screen recorder running. It worked very nice. The settings are in support of the Mac and Final Cut Pro. As I open up Dolphin, we could see that there's no problem finding the Samba share that's located on my Mac, which would make it very easy for me to move these movies over to the Mac once I've recorded them. After installing a program called Cheese, I'm going to test out the webcam right quick. Cheese has all these cool background effects. That's why I chose it. I don't actually use the webcam very much, but I wanted to do so just for this video and show that the hardware works properly, and that's it. The only quirk here is with the SD card built into the laptop. There's no picture here for it, though an entry does come up when I insert the SD card. I can go over here to open with File Manager. There's Mount. So I click Open with File Manager, and there's a lot of files on here. It takes a second to open, and it works just fine. So clearly we could see over on the left-hand side here that it's mounted. But if I open up here on the USB, you see as I click on it, there's still an option to mount it. Like, this program doesn't know it's mounted. So I thought that was just a little bit weird. SD card in KDE's Notify acts a little bit funky. This doesn't happen when I insert a USB drive. It works fine. I'll further point out one more note. KDE integration for Firefox built in over here, showing my YouTube channel running here in the background, notifications for its current state of the browser tab. And that concludes installing KDE 2110 on this HP laptop with Tiger Lake architecture. I hope you found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below. Helps me out a lot when you do. And hit that subscribe button for more videos like this when they come out. When the next video comes out in this series, a link will be posted here in the top right corner. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?